This is the new Jaguar F-Type, and I'm going to tell you what's new with it and whether it's any good or not. And if you're in the market for a new car, don't forget, go to whatcar.com, because there we can save you loads of money off your next new car. The first thing to start with is the styling, because it does look very different from the pre-facelift F-Type. And the biggest change is at the front, where it has new headlights. Now, the previous F-Type had rounder headlights that were higher up on the bonnet, but now they're slimmer towards the front of the car, and it has this kind of J-blade look, and LED lights come as standard. On the F-Type R models, you also get adaptive high beam and pixel LED technology as well. So bringing the headlights further forward gives the look of the car being slightly longer, but actually the dimensions haven't changed at all. It's still exactly the same size as before. You've also got a couple more vents on the bonnet. The bumper is different with a bigger grille, and at the back you also have different tail lights that are more defined than before. There have been a few changes inside the F-Type as well. So some of the materials have been upgraded to give a better feeling of quality. It's generally all put together very nicely, feels really durable and pretty impressive. There's also some new design features as well. You now get a 12.3-inch digital driver display as well. Now, the analog dials from the previous F-Type were beginning to look a bit old school, so now this brings it right up to date. It's customizable, configurable, really crisp, really clear, a very good addition. And finally, you get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard on this infotainment system. But what are the changes under the skin? A simplified engine lineup now consists of the 2-litre 4-cylinder P300 and a new detuned version of the 5-litre supercharged V8 with 444 brake horsepower. It's called the P450. We only had a brief drive in that car, but it was long enough to make us think it's a worthwhile step up from the more pedestrian P300. Scintillating pace and still the option of rear-wheel drive, that seems to be the new sweet spot of the F-Type range, even if the majority of buyers will still be opting for the P300. And then we have the range-topping F-Type P575R, which now has the same power output as the previous F-Type SVR.
Now, if you are familiar with this 5-litre V8 supercharged engine from Jaguar Land Rover, you will probably know that it's got a bit of a reputation for being extremely loud. It's about as subtle as a rugby player in a nightclub about 8 pints in. So what they've actually done for this facelift model is they've given you a quiet option. So apparently not all customers want a really brutish V8 soundtrack all of the time. Fair enough. So it gives you the option for a quiet startup. So does that mean that they've robbed any character from this supercharged V8? Well, absolutely not, because you've still got this sports exhaust button down here. If you put it in dynamic, put the gearbox into sport, then you can unlock the utterly ridiculous potential from this engine. It is seriously rapid. You get another 1 second boost from 0 to 60 compared to the P450, and you can feel every bit of it. It's so aggressive in its power delivery as well in dynamic mode. Obviously it's a bit more chilled when you don't have it in dynamic, but really it is so impressive. And actually the thing that's really good about this is the all-wheel drive system, because there's so much traction on offer that you can drive it pretty confidently and really make the most of the engine in a way that with the previous F-Type Rs, especially the original one, if you remember it, it had a bit of a reputation, shall we say, for being quite leery. Those tweaks to the suspension again help it feel slightly more stable at the rear end and really help make this still a fantastic engine. So it is properly rapid. We're talking real supercar levels of performance. Very entertaining indeed. And then back off a bit, turn the sports exhaust off, everything back into normal mode, and it's pretty quiet, pretty comfortable, more so than before as well. So the ride feels slightly more settled than it did. Before the facelift, it didn't have a beautifully smooth and flat ride all of the time. It's still not perfect now, but it does feel slightly more composed. However, obviously, this engine is a big selling point for the car, but it's not really much use if the rest of the dynamic package doesn't really make it that fun to drive. And I suppose that is the area where the F-Type falls down a little bit compared to its rivals, Because remember, at this price point, you're dealing with pretty serious competitors. Porsche 911s, Audi R8s, and the F-Type doesn't have the delicacy in its handling that you get from a Porsche. And the body control as well, it's a heavy, heavy car, and you can feel it, so it doesn't have that kind of effortless nimbleness that a 911 offers. But then, when the engine sounds this good, it's a really, really serious selling point for the car. The gearbox as well has really properly brutal shifts in dynamic mode, which I actually quite like. Gives you a bit of connection to it. But when you've got it in normal mode, it can feel a little hesitant, so it doesn't quite have the immediacy of its shifts and the kind of mind-reading abilities that Porsche's PDK automatic gearbox offers you. And the steering, it's certainly not wriggling with feeling under your fingers. But turn-in does feel quite sharp, but it just doesn't feel as naturally weighted or as enjoyable to interact with as a 911. That remains the pinnacle for sports cars.
So the lineup benefits from some steering, suspension and traction control tweaks, all of which makes it feel sharper to drive, more controlled and more comfortable. But it remains in a bit of an awkward position pricing wise. The P300 still doesn't feel particularly special, especially when it costs a similar amount to the Porsche 718 Cayman and Alpine A110, both of which are outstanding sports cars. If your budget can stretch to it, the P450 is much more enjoyable and offers a rear-wheel drive V8 experience that helps it stand out more. This F-Type P575R is ludicrously quick, but at £100,000 it's also extremely expensive. It doesn't quite have a perfect mile-munching Grand Tourer package, and neither does it offer the class-leading handling of a Porsche 911. But that monstrous V8 will be a strong enough selling point for many buyers.
That was the facelifted F-Type R, and if you want to know even more about this car, make sure you go to whatcar.com, because there we have an extended written review of not only this, but every single car on sale. Every car you can possibly imagine. And of course, if you are interested in buying a new car and you want to save loads of money, then when you're on our website, you can very easily browse through our list of deals on every new car on sale and see exactly how much we can save you. If you've enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you gave it a like. If you've got any comments or opinions at all about the car, which one would you choose? Would you go for the 2-litre 4-cylinder or the F-Type R? Do you think the previous model looks better? Make sure you let us know in the comments, and please subscribe to our channel. That really would be great, because we've got loads of videos coming out in the future.